Storms, hurricanes, and natural disasters clearly test the fortitude of any area, as we're seeing this weekend with Hermine, and just recently with the rains and flooding in Louisiana. We tend to focus on the immediate aftermath and relief, but the devastation can last for years. We have the story of how one city leveled by a tornado has spent years rebuilding, and in some ways is better and stronger for the future. The tornado that struck Joplin, Missouri on May 22, 2011 was one of the most destructive ever in U.S. history. 161 people were killed, 1,000 were injured, and more than 7,000 homes were damaged. When the NewsHour visited 4 months later, people were still literally picking up the pieces of their lives.
It's certainly clean compared to what it used to be.
Jane Cage, a businesswoman who chaired the Citizens Advisory Council to rebuild Joplin, told us back then she was worried people wouldn't come back to the destroyed areas.
In the beginning, I think everyone said, I want to rebuild my house. And now I think people are faced with the reality that what they wanted, their neighborhood and their friends may not be in that same spot.
5 years later, Cage took us on a tour of the same neighborhood.
I think this is in some ways one of the best recovered neighborhoods. They're nicer houses and larger houses overall.
She says one of the main things that Joplin got right in the aftermath was encouraging residents to stay.
We concentrated on keeping our population in Joplin because we saw what happened in other cities that experienced disasters. And I think one of the first things that we did to make that happen was our school superintendent made the promise that we would start school on time.
5 schools were completely wiped out in the storm, including Joplin High School. When we visited in 2011, classes had just begun in an abandoned shopping mall. Now, a brand new state-of-the-art high school has opened on the original site. It's just across the street from where sophomore Blake Dean's house was flattened. Dean described how he rode out the storm in a backyard shelter.
Sure enough, we start hearing this little kind of freight train noise, and it starts getting really loud, and the pressure starts building, and we all kind of just huddle up in the shelter, and it just blew over it.
His family chose to rebuild on the same lot, a bigger and better house, and he says the school is also bigger and better.
Oh, it's awesome. It's so much bigger than the last one, and there's so much opportunity.
In fact, bigger and better is how many in Joplin now describe the city as a whole. The population has actually grown by 1,000 people over the last 5 years. And fellow high school football player Maurice Aubry says the sense of community has become stronger too.
Now we all have this single pass experience that links us all together, as before. So it just it's made it so much better, I think.
My complex was this portion right here, and my apartment was right here.
Marcinda Hempin is one of those people who took advantage of those new opportunities. She was living in an apartment and huddled in the bathtub when the storm passed through.
The weirdest thing was after it was all done, it was so quiet that I thought, am I dead? Did I not make it? Is this what it's like to be dead?
Hempin, a single mom of 2 now grown boys, said prior to the storm she couldn't afford to buy a house. But thanks to a $20 million federal loan program which helped her with a down payment, she owns a home in one of the hardest hit areas.
It's still a little unreal. I own this. This is all mine. I can paint a wall. I can do whatever I want to do. And nobody can tell me different.
The community-wide effort, along with help from all levels of government and hundreds of volunteer organizations from around the country, has changed the face of the city. Nearly 2,000 new homes have been built, 300 new businesses have opened, and thanks to $30 million from the federal government, the city has a new sewer system, new electrical grid, and new storm shelters in every school and public building. There are also new parks, complete with basketball courts, playgrounds, and water features. St. John's Mercy Hospital, which was completely destroyed, has been rebuilt on a new site and has $11 million worth of upgrades to protect from future tornadoes, including windows that can sustain winds up to 250 miles an hour, fortified safe zones on every floor, and a 450-foot reinforced tunnel which houses generators, water, and data communications.